showcase house for the arts has supported music and the arts with over $25 million in the community grants, and that's with the proceeds coming out of our ticket sales, our sales at the shops, our restaurants that we have on premise each year. So thank you. It means the world to us that you guys are here today.
Roji Beverly Hills Magazine presents In the World of Design.
I'm so excited to introduce to you to Susan McFadden, the esteemed editor-in-chief of California Homes Magazine, the region's top magazine in the country showcasing architecture, the arts, and distinctive design. Welcome the amazing Susan McFadden.
Well, thank you so much, Danielle. Well, good morning. I'm Susan McFadden, editor of California Homes Magazine, and I'd like to welcome all of you to the Pasadena Showcase House Social Influencer Breakfast. I hope you've had your coffee and a few mimosas so you can relax and listen to the 5 wonderful interior designers we have with us today on our panel. They each have a room in the Showcase House. Introduce one of my good friends, Megan Riley, who's sitting next to me, and she is the founder and producer of West Edge, another really well-known design event that happens in Southern California. So Pasadena Showcase House, and then in November we'll have the West Edge program. Great group of designers this year, including many that aren't on the panel, but hopefully we'll have them on the panel later on in the week or month ahead. I'm going to start with Maria. I have a really interesting question for you. I think it's interesting, but it's very oftentimes this house has been a design house in the past, and the big challenge I feel is to not destroy the original feel of the home, but to bring in modern amenities. And that's what I want to ask Maria. How do you bridge a traditional home with modern amenities, especially for a bathroom?
So in designing the primary bathroom this year, we were very conscious of the architecture of the house and trying to update it to today's standards. I mean, everybody wants a soaking tub, a super full shower. We wanted more furniture than built-in cabinetry. So I think a lot of what we did was do a very transitional room. I wouldn't call it traditional. I wouldn't call it contemporary either. But for example, we went with very contemporary Callista fixtures that you're going to see, and then we paired it with a TiVo wallpaper that's called Protea. And Protea is symbol of renewal. So for us, that gave way to our concept for the room. But I would say you have to keep it transitional. You have to incorporate the elements that everybody is looking for today, but really take in consideration the architecture of the house.
I understand that greenhouse is imported, and I thought, it's important too. But can you give us more information on where you purchased it and how it came together?
Yes, so it's actually sponsored by. So the greenhouse is actually it's a sponsored greenhouse from BC Greenhouses, and they have a lot of different, from home, small, affordable greenhouses, all the way to commercial custom ones. But when I saw this one, it's called the Parkside. I wanted to choose this particular model because if you notice at the very top, you can see that wrought iron detail, and it's all along the details of the fence and the front door. And I think my designer friends here can appreciate all the little details that most don't see. It's these little finishes that really tie spaces together. And I don't think I mentioned it, but BC Greenhouses is actually a Canadian company, and so it did come in boxes from Canada, and my project manager and I, the 2 women, we built the base, and then we built it all the way up.
Mark, a question for you. I know that you do a lot of work on historical homes, and how did you become interested and how did you begin working with historical homes?
The way that I actually got into design was by mistake, actually. I was when I was in college, I was actually a pre-med major in college. And when I was a freshman in college, I was supposed to be a med tech, and when I went to medicine, I was like, I can't do this. And at the same time I was in college, I was actually a visual merchandiser for Restoration Hardware. And that's kind of when I started and got interested in historic homes, especially craftsman homes. So it was, to me, at that time, I didn't realize that going into design was an actual career. And I was doing visual merchandising, and I got interested in craftsman furniture, and that's how I actually got into historical homes. And then I moved to San Francisco, and I started working on Victorians and on Edwardian homes. And then that's how I got interested in working on historical homes, and just kind of transitioned into, I was actually supposed to be working in incarcerated services, HIV. I was going to go into working in prisons. And then I decided, well, you know what, I want to work in architecture and interior design instead. So, that's actually how I transitioned, and I went into design school, and then in San Francisco, I just started working on one Edwardian home, turned into 5 and 6. And then when I decided to move back to LA, to start working on more historical homes. So that's how I ended up working on not just craftsman homes, Edwardian homes. Lately we've been working on a lot of Tudor homes. So that's how I actually got into working on historical homes, was saying, medicine wasn't for me, so I decided, hey, I'll go into interior design, and that's how I got to work on historical homes.
Rhea, since Fisher and Paykel offers 4 different styles in your product collection, how did you go about selecting the styles for the kitchen and the butler's pantry? And also, how is this appliance selection different than what was in the original kitchen?
Okay. I'm going to take a step back. So I'm originally from Southern California, and then moved to Westport, Connecticut, because we were working in Manhattan. That was about 20 years ago. And in the last 5 years, I would return here for the Pasadena Showcase House of Design, because I support everything that you all do, and I love to be the voyeur and see what designers are doing and what the house is like. So I returned a year ago, and the opportunity came up to potentially, it to be a sponsor, and then we crossed paths with Mark. So I felt the stars were aligning, and then came to the house, and I looked at this house, and I said, I know this house. I used to drive down the 134, and I would look at this house from beyond. So I thought, oh my gosh, this is all meant to be. So I want to go ahead and say, you all are artists, and all so talented, and I can't wait to take the full tour. But back to Mark and the appliances. Mark is we cross paths, and when it comes to selecting the appliances, I really wanted the artist to show his concept. So we took a step back to listen to what he wanted to do and bring the kitchen back to life. Invited him down to our experience center, which is in Costa Mesa. And yes, we have 4 different styles for Fisher and Paykel, unlike other brands that have 2. So we thought, how do we, again, keep the integrity of the home and the design, hence why we have the stainless steel and professional line, and then combine it with some modernism. So Mark decided to combine 2 of the styles. We have that pro stainless steel, but when you walk through, you'll see it's not just a typical pro range. It's got an induction cooktop as well. So we're giving the user that, I'm not ready to let go of gas, but I'm really interested about induction cooking. Okay, so there's that. The sustainability factor. Our company is about sustainability technology, so we're bringing in modernism. And then when you walk into the butler's pantry, you'll see our minimal line, which is more of that sleek, sexy black. And together we came up with this concept, but the credit goes to Mark. So I really hand it to you for really blending the two styles and having the guts to do that.
A perfect pair.
And last but certainly not least, Samantha Williams. And you didn't turn in your questions, Samantha. You just start telling us about your business and why you're here and about your room.
Great. Yeah, I've been a little busy. But anyhow, like everyone's been saying about the mission of the Showcase House, I really believe in what this is about, and it's really a fundraiser. It's great for us to showcase our business and what we can do, but ultimately this is a really wonderful way as a designer to be involved in something that gives back to the community, and that's something that I personally really value and enjoy being a part of. And I've met wonderful friends, people in the design industry, people in the Showcase organization, so it's been very rewarding, which is why I guess I keep coming back year after year. I'll just talk about my space a bit this year. We have a wonderful sponsor in Tebow for our fabric and wall coverings, and also Samuel and Sons for all of our trims. And the inspiration for me, I guess I kind of fell in love with the wallpaper from Tebow. We had just used in a client's house, and it's kind of a take on a very traditional de Gournay style chinoiserie panel, but this is actually a printed mural, and so it's a great way to show the public how you can get that really high-end chinoiserie de Gournay type of look at probably a fifth or less of the price point. And so we're excited to show people how you can get this very rich, layered look at a more economical entry point. So, and we just love the paper, and we really wanted to layer a lot of different patterns, textures. You'll see there's a lot going on in my space, so I hope you get to stop and enjoy all the details. But we really had fun making it kind of traditional in English. I would consider myself kind of a new traditionalist, fresh take on classic interiors, and I think this house is just really perfectly suited for that type of design.
I have a question for Megan. Speaking of old and new and mixing them, can you speak to this trend and also how homeowners can feel comfortable doing this? And
So, yeah, I think West Edge Design Fair tends to showcase more modern design. So we have a lot of brands who are showing new collections, and the kitchen appliance, industry is right for that. Everyone wants the newest and greatest with technology and so forth in kitchen design. But I think homeowners are really appreciating mixing styles, keeping the heritage, wanting to preserve what's been there and the story of either a piece of furniture or a home in this case. And I think we work with several organizations who are all about preserving old. Save Iconic Architecture is a great example of such an organization. Really recognizing that there's so much value in the way things were built years and years ago. And, as much as I think we've all kind of gone towards this consumerism culture, we're seeing that, especially with younger generations, kind of dial back a little bit, where people really want quality first and foremost. And so that's where, there's the opportunity to take old world traditions and old world ways of woodworking and glass blowing and all of these traditions, craftsmanship that has been skilled and honed over years and years, but putting a modern spin on that. And a lot of times we're also seeing people want kind of a statement piece in a room. So maybe it's the modern wow factor of one statement piece, but also playing up a lot of the elements that are built in to the architecture or the home, and the environment as well, playing off, where you are in the world, the landscaping, bringing nature in, and kind of recognizing that that is also part of the story. And obviously nature has been here from a long time before any of we were as well.
dealing with vendors and fabric choices, and dig into a little bit about each room that all of you have done, a little more detail. So let's start with Maria.
we always see it as an opportunity for our vendors to showcase their new products. And it's a challenge for us to be able to work with whatever is the latest and pull it all together without really getting stuck, for me, into what I want the design to be. I really, as I'm starting a room, I figure out which are the vendors that are going to be important for the room, and then I start going to them with, I usually will come up with one thing that will decide what my inspiration is, and in this case it was a wallpaper. The beautiful colors of that we have in the room started the whole feel, and all the decisions are made based on that wallpaper and how everything will fit to that. But my vendors always get the opportunity to tell me what they would like to feature. It's a really good marketing opportunity for them to be able to put 30,000, to put a product in front of 30,000 or more people that are going to actually experience it in real life, as opposed to seeing it in social media or a magazine. I mean, it's just, everything is great, but being in a room with the items is pretty invaluable. So I always defer to them in terms of what they want to feature, and pull it all together.
I was actually very fortunate. My vendors said, whatever you need, we'll send it, just let us know. And that was such a blessing, especially on such a big endeavor. As you walk through the house, the inside and the out, there is a poster. And on that poster, look for this poster. I want you to make it a big deal, because that poster has a photo of what the designers started with, and it is bleak. And then you can in person see exactly what we've done, every little detail. Spend that time, do that comparison, because that's when you're going to really get to know us as designers and what we bring to the table for you as the client. And so my space, there's this moon gate. It's called the Gracie Arbor from Terra Sculpture. And it actually is two pieces, came in two pieces. Again, two women. That's all it took for us to build this entire garden together. It took a while, but we did it. And the beds are from Epic Gardening, and you can actually get these. They're modular, they're modern, but there's enough muted tone to match the house. So that I love that we're talking about modern and how do we keep this home, like the integrity of it, right? The style. And if you notice, like the color, the gray and the mint green, it's actually, if you can't see it from here, but the roof has that tone in it. So that's how we kind of pull from the house, pull from the original, and bring it into modern. And then as for the greenhouse, I already told you how much I love a greenhouse. And I think every little kid's dream is to walk through this beautiful greenhouse. I put a chandelier in there because that's my favorite thing. It was lighted, so it'll be really pretty with rainbows and everything as the sunlight hits it. So I think that's about it.
So with spaces that I design, I actually like to tell stories. So how I designed my space was based on the second owner of the house, who is Susanna Bransford Emery Holmes, who was the second owner of the home, who transformed the home from a shingle-style craftsman home into the mock Tudor home that you see today. So we did a little research on her. At one point, she was the richest woman in the world at one point. She made all her money from silver mining in Utah. So we imagined, like, if she was to come back to life and asked us to redesign her kitchen. So she was known as a fashionista. She had homes all around the world. She once held, I believe, a birthday party for one of her children that cost, at the time, I think it was like 1920 or something like that. It was $300,000. So I mean, when you think about that, I mean, today's world, that would be like $2 million. So we maybe put like the Kardashians to shame. So, so we thought, you know, what would she really want that space to look like? And then we looked at our sponsors. So Dunn Edwards, their color of the year is Skipping Stones. So that kind of gave me an idea of, it reminded us of the Tiffany blue. So that's what we chose for our main color of the kitchen. So it was like, well, and her friends called her Susie. That was her nickname for all of her friends. We were like, breakfast at Susie's. So that was our take, and that was where we kind of took off on our design. So that was our starting point for the entire design. And then we thought silver, she was the silver queen, so we went over the top. So everything in the space is polished nickels, polished chromes, a little over the top. So when you walk through the space, it's all that skipping stones, whites, silvers. So when you walk in, it's really light and airy. And we went kind of over the top. Also to the space, we looked at it, there's tons of light that comes in. So we treated like the family room as a sunroom. So you'll notice that we didn't do any window treatments. We chose fabric wall treatments from TiVo, who's one of our sponsors. We specifically looked for a wall treatment that looked like that kind of mimicked like glass panes from a sunroom. So then also like we even looked at also who lives in the house. So the person that owns the house, she's a widower, and she actually lives by herself. A widow that lives by herself. So we took that into account. She also has a brand new granddaughter, I believe, and also a grandchild. So she's starting to have grandchildren. So when we were picking fabrics from TiVo, we picked performance fabrics. So indoor outdoor fabrics. So the space that we designed is also the most informal spot in the house. She told us that that's where she spends all of her time. So we made sure that we took the history of the house, but also considered who also lives in the house. And then we looked at also brands. So we also looked at the way that she uses the house. So we looked at the butler's pantry. Butler's pantries are usually used by the butler, but she doesn't have a butler. So what we did is that we converted the butler's pantry into an everyday kitchen. So we chose a steam oven that has 23 functions. So she can do steam her food, she can microwave, she can air fry. She can actually just use the the butler's pantry as her everyday kitchen. So she doesn't have to fire up a 48-inch range every day just to warm something up. And then when she has her extended family over, that's when she can actually use the main kitchen. So, we looked at it where we wanted to make it functional for her, but also it's also a showpiece when she has guests over. So when she also has catering, it's also a full catering kitchen. So we made sure that it was functional for her, but it's also functional for when she has big gatherings. And then it also translates, that it's still the Silver Queen kitchen, but it's also for the person that's also living here. So we made sure that it still told the story that we wanted to tell, but it also made it functional for the person that's living here today.
All right, so I'm a vendor. The original, that's a really good point, because the original kitchen had a little wonkiness to it, the way that it was positioned. So kudos to your team for reconfiguring it. I'm a big believer that when one hosts a party, people are going to go where the food and the drinks are, right? And so the kitchen, to me, is the heart of the home. When Mark spoke about the owner of the house and the growing family and opportunities for entertainment, I didn't want to push appliances on you. It was more like, what's going to work that, again, stays with heritage, but also modern technology, right? So dish drawers. I mean, we're all getting older. I don't know. I don't like to bend down anymore. I don't know about y'all, but dish drawers are really nice. You can open them up and place them as opposed to the drop downs. We have two columns, column refrigerator and freezer, but we also have a cool drawer too. Again, so that multi-functional. It's a freezer, it's a refrigerator, it's a wine refrigerator. It's that multi-purpose, especially when the rest of the family comes and they gather. So the house itself has all of these modern elevated appliances designed in still in a traditional way. So doing it, keeping in mind of designing for a changing world, right? We are keeping technology and sustainability in check. We thought that was really important. And also knowing that she was more mature, that the appliances there using the dish drawer and the column too is really great for those that are living in place or aging in place, universal design. So, you know, again, no bending or any other impairments that may be. So I think we did a good job in mixing it all up.
One of the questions that I inevitably get every year from people going through the house is, well, what was your budget from the homeowner? What was your budget? How much money did Showcase give you to do this space? And surprise, it's zero. And that's something I think the public is always really interested in, how these Showcase houses come together, how it works, who's paying for it. Well, it's the designers and our vendors. And all the work that we do, it comes out of our pocket. It costs a lot of money. It's expensive to be here and put on a really good design and a good experience for people. And getting back to your question about vendors, we're so dependent and thankful for the people that we do business with on a regular basis with our clients, and then turning to those relationships to help make all of this work. Because having done 2 kitchens myself for the Showcase house, we couldn't do it without appliance donations and fabric donations and all of that. So it really is the whole design industry coming together to support this and make it possible. And it is interesting how it all comes together, and somehow it always does. And I think that's changed. I've been involved for about 10 years, and as the economy has changed, getting those donations has kind of changed as well. Where we are at economically can definitely impact how things are donated or not each year. So just how things are going on in the world, that also kind of plays out here. So, but it's been interesting to see the progression of how this has worked, the impact of social media on how a Showcase works. Our media week, I feel like, is much more social influencer based than it was 10 years ago, where it was more newspapers. So, I don't know how that goes back to your question, but those are just some things I thought, based on what we're talking about, are kind of interesting points that people may or may not know.
You don't really expect it, but our plants are also from donors. So some of them we did have to purchase on our own if it wasn't available, but even in my space, I got soil donated. So like, those are things that I think the public doesn't understand, or really you wouldn't think, because it's hidden. So there is a lot behind the scenes, and we're just super thankful for all the vendors in this business.
Anyway, I think we have just a few minutes. Does anyone want to ask any questions of the designers? Go ahead.
What is the biggest lesson and takeaway that you've gotten? I know Showcase hasn't started yet, but your experience up to date, what's the biggest lesson that has impacted your business that's been a wow moment for you?
I think as a designer, being involved with something of this scale, I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to get like 10 jobs right away, and that's fantastic. And sometimes that does work out, but I think that playing the long game with how you present yourself, your PR strategy is really important. Just continuing to show up. People will say like, oh, I liked this designer's room last time I was here, and I like it again, and you just kind of stay on people's radar. And so I think that how each designer approaches this is very different. Everyone has their own social media strategies, PR strategies, but really just kind of being here. I'm based in Pasadena, so this is my community. Continuing to show up and be involved has really paid off for me. Being a part of this showcase is really how I've chosen to build my business, and so that's something that I've learned, and I always try to share with people who are newer to this event.
I'll do a quick plug for our designers who are in the crowd. Be flexible, because there are so many surprises. Every single project, no matter which renovation, I'm sure many of you have had your own home renovations before and things like that, there's hiccups. But when you are working with, I think there's 29 of us, so when you're working with 28 other designers on top of each other in the home at the same time, you can only imagine that you need to be flexible. So kudos to all of you out there. We're almost there.
So I am only on Instagram. I don't have time for anything else because I have too much going on here. So it's at The Art of Rome Design.
So you can find me on Instagram mostly. It's coastal_homestead.
So I'm on Instagram, Facebook. Everything is under Hermigino Designs. I know it's hard to spell, but just look it up. You have to come to my room so you can see the spelling.
You can find me on Instagram at Samantha Williams _design.
Designers, thank you so much for all your work. And all of you out there in the audience, thank you. Everybody who's working on the house, thank you very much. Enjoy another mimosa.
Thank you, Susan, too, for being here. Our coffee is officially ready.
Hey, love, how are you?
In the world of design,